guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kim and this is Expedition 3 Pages. In today's video, I'm going to go over all the new rules for my TBR game, Tales from Two Trails, which is right here. So I'm not going to hold it up, I'm going to do cutaways, but this is basically the board. It's pretty much like Snakes and Ladders, but there's two trails, two different paths you can go on. And along those paths, there are different keys that you might encounter along the way, like vista views, vista stops, if you will. Two different lakes, and yeah, the aim of the game is to start at the top and make your way down to the bottom. So hike down, basically. So I'm sure as many of you know, I have played this game before. I've played it, I think 3 times before, but only one other time I've done it in race mode, which is me versus you. And I'm gonna do another race mode again. I've just very slightly changed the rules. But yeah, things that you guys have to do to participate hasn't really changed, just very slightly. So I think in this section, I'm just going to explain the overall rules of the game. Just so yeah, if you only want to listen to this part of the video, then that's absolutely fine. It's just a little quick guide to how to play the game, and then I'll go into more depth later on in the video, and I'll timestamp down below if you wanted to hear more about different parts of the board and the different prompts and everything like that. So let's just start with the playing pieces, nice and easy. The green figure is going to be you guys because it was last time, and the red piece is going to be me because it was last time. So I'm just going to keep those the same because I don't want to start getting confused about who's who. So I think, yeah, forever, whenever I play this game, you guys are always going to be green and I'm always going to be red. So essentially, we have Snakes and Ladders rules. If you hit on some arrows pointing down, you have to move down the board. If you hit on an arrow pointing up, you move up the board. I roll a 6-sided dice for each turn, and corresponding to the numbers on the dice is the number of times that you move along a path. If, say, we were starting on the red path and I rolled a 5, we would end up on this square here, which is read a book inspired by a song. And so everybody on the game would do that prompt. Throughout each month, there will be 6 different prompts chosen for everybody to fulfill. So it doesn't matter if the red piece has landed on it or the green piece has landed on it, everybody fulfills that prompt, including myself. The red trail is the challenging trail, and the green trail is the more happy trail. The green trail used to have prompts on that corresponded to my goals for the reading year. However, because this is much more of a community game now, I have changed it, and I've changed it so that the green path is now all genre prompts. There are 10 different genre prompts, which I will go over when we look in more detail on the board, but basically it is trail genre trail. The red trail is pretty much the same. I've just changed a couple of the prompts. I took out my 40 by 40 because it's much more personalized to me, and I took out another one. But I will go through what all the prompts are later on in the video if you're interested in that. Along the way, we might encounter one of the key icons on the map, and in which case we refer to the key at the top of the map. I'm going to call it a map. It's kind of like a map. And here you can see if we land on one of these icons, we have to do the activity corresponding to that icon, which all the information is up on the key. As we work our way down, we may encounter a bridge. There are only 3 bridges on the board, but the bridge will, instead of working like the arrows that are one-way systems, the bridges can work either direction. So if you land on the green square on a bridge, you move to the red path and vice versa. And the only other way that moves you quite far across the board is if you land on a waterfall. There are only 2 waterfalls on the board, and landing on the waterfall is the only way to enter or walk around the lake. Otherwise, you just bypass the lake. The only way to go around the lake is if you fall through the waterfall. So the rules for going around the lake is you can move around the lake in either direction initially. So when you enter the lake, you can move the number of squares on the dice, either clockwise or anti-clockwise. The only rule is you have to keep to that direction. Once you've made the decision, you can't keep going back and forth around the lake. And then once you come out, you just move on your way and carry on working your way down the board. Like I said, there are 2 different waterfalls and they correspond to 2 different lakes. One of the lakes is Lake Joy, where you have all joyful prompts, happy prompts, wonderful prompts, great. The other lake is Lake Doom, where we have terrible prompts no one wants. So you really don't want to be going and falling into this lake. It's bigger as well. There's more terrible prompts. So we don't want that one. They're actually not that bad, but they just definitely take things out of your hands more. So they're more risky. I should maybe call it Lake Risk. I don't know. If you have any names for the trails that you want to make or the lakes, then let me know, because I'm really bad at trying to come up with any cool names for the lakes or the trails. In the me versus you game, one of us is going to start on the red path, one of us is going to start on the green path. and then we race to the bottom. And whoever makes it to the bottom wins the game. And this time the outcomes have changed slightly. So there are going to be 4 different outcomes depending on who finishes first and which path they finish on. So if I was to finish first and I finished on the green path, that means that for the whole of the next month, I can just pick whatever books I want to read. I can read books I have to read, I can mood read books, whatever. I can just pick whatever I want. If, however, I finish first, but I land on the red path, you get a choice. So it's not definite that I will be able to pick my books. You guys will have to decide whether or not I get to pick my books or whether or not you get to pick my books. So yeah, that will be the decision there. So if I finish on the red path first, that's the choice that I will give you guys. I will do a poll and you can vote on whether or not I'm picking the books the next month or you guys are. From the last game, you picked my books in the month and it was great for me. So I still think it's a win for me either way. It does mean that if you choose, it takes it out of my hands because I will do a random comment picker to pick the book. Okay, so if you finish on the green path, then that means you will definitely pick my books for me. If you guys finish on the red path, that means that it's going to be split. So half of the books that I read the next month will be voted by you guys and I will do random comment picker to choose them. But every other book I read has to come from my TBR jar. So it will slow down the amount of reads that I'm able to do suggested by you guys, because in between every single book I have to pick from my TBR jar. So that becomes a lot more perilous a situation for me. Okay, so how you guys participate has changed slightly, like I said. So one book fulfills one prompt. It doesn't fulfill multiple prompts. Each book has to only fulfill one prompt. But whereas before you could submit books for all 6 prompts, this time around you can only submit books for 2 prompts each. But that doesn't mean that you can't fulfill all 6 prompts if you want to. If you wanted to play the game a bit more tactically, you could use that to play tactically and you could fulfill all 6 prompts but not submit until the end of the month, when you can have a look and see what prompts still need fulfilling, what people haven't done, what people have done, stuff like that. I just wanted to change this because my rule is, because there's only one of me and there's lots of you guys, 5 of you had to fulfill a prompt for it to count as a fulfilled prompt. But you guys were smashing it every month, like loads of people were joining in, which was really nice and I really appreciate that, it's really fun. But you were beating me quite badly. And for a lot of prompts there were like 15, 16 people that were fulfilling the prompt. I could just up it and I could say, okay, well now 20 people have to fulfill a prompt and now hopefully 20 or more people will complete the prompt. But the only reason I'm not going to do that is because I really like to edit the books that people read and show them on the screen and talk through them, and like just so everybody can see what everybody read and what everybody contributed. And I like to link down to people in the description as well with their links to their channels and their social media and everything like that. And it's just taken a really long time to do it, so I just need to cut down on the editing time that takes. It would end up being really, really long if there were like 20 people for each prompt. So I just want to reduce that time down for that section and also make it harder to reach 5 people at each prompt. So like I said, if you want to play tactically, then what you can do is you can fulfill all 6 prompts and then at the end of the month, have a look at the comments, see what needs fulfilling. I will also try and show you more on like Instagram and stuff like that, how things are going, bring the prompts up on the screen and show you in this kind of format what still needs to be fulfilled. So there's still the challenge element there if you want, because there are definitely prompts that are harder to fulfill and prompts that are easier to fulfill. So usually the easier ones get full up really quickly. So there will definitely be harder, more challenging prompts, which if you want to play tactically, you could try and do those instead of the easier ones. And then what we do with that is that the next month, for every prompt that you guys fulfill or that I fulfill, we can move our pieces one step forward, and for any prompt that we haven't been able to fulfill, the piece has to move one step back. When it comes to the key, so if we land on, say, the tent and the prompt was to read outside, only one of you has to do that, because I know the key ones are slightly more difficult. If we land on a key and it isn't fulfilled throughout the month, then that means that the following month we don't get any step forwards, even if we've fulfilled the prompts. So if we've landed on read outside, and whatever parameters we've set around that I haven't done, then even if I fulfilled a prompt, my piece isn't moving anywhere. It doesn't move back, but it just doesn't move forward. So there is some benefit to still fulfilling the prompts, but you just don't get that extra step forward. Every month after we've worked out how many steps forwards we've got and how many steps back we've got, whatever square we end up landing on, those are the first 2 prompts for the next month. So then I actually only roll 4 times during every other month apart from the first go. But every month there will be 6 prompts. I hope that's clear. It sounds confusing. Hopefully I will edit it to make sense. If you want to participate in the game, every month you can read books to fulfill up to 2 prompts, and then down in the comment section, let me know the book, the author, because that is quite helpful, trying to source the image for the book, and also which prompt it fulfilled. So just let me know those 3 things, the book, the author, and what prompt it fulfilled, and then I will include it in the next game. So that's all you need to know. Just, yeah, fulfill 2 of the prompts and let me know what they are. You can also let me know the other prompts you fulfilled as well if you want to, but you're only allowed to officially submit 2. So if you tell me a bunch of books that you've read, then I will only use 2 of them when it comes to the next game, and I'll choose what those are. And I may choose in my favour. So that's basically all the rules for now. I'm very excited to try out the new genre path and see how that goes. I'm hoping that goes a lot easier. We've got things on here like dystopian or romance, which we've got horror as well, which I'm actually terrified of, I'm not gonna lie. So I'm looking forward to playing the first game. I have actually already played the game for July, and I'm excited to share that with you next week. So yeah, good times. Okay, so now I'm going to cut through, going through the board in much more detail, where I go over each prompt, just so we've got more of a clear idea of what's going on. But I think I've covered everything. If you have any questions, please do leave them down below and I will answer them. And yeah, I look forward to starting the race round 2. Okay, right, on to the prompts. Okay, so I don't know how easy this is to see. Maybe I can do a little zoom in when I edit. Let's just go through the red trail first. First up on the list is this square, which is a little guy with a book in his hand. And this originally stands for Expedition 3 Pages, where I got to read a book from my Reading Around the World challenge. However, because I'm going to make it more universal, so if we land on this square, I'm going to play the game Global, which is like Wordle, but with geography. And whatever country of the day is on Global, that's the country we have to read a book. This next icon is a book with 4 dots around it, and the dots represent people because this means read a book club book or a read along book, a group read book, or anything where you're participating in chat with someone about the book. A buddy read will also count for this. Next up we have the light bulb, and this just means read a non-fiction book. It can be any kind of non-fiction book you want. The globe is random continent generator, so it is different from Wordle. We have a whole continent to choose from. I do remember last time we had this, it was Antarctica, which was the hardest place to find a book from, but I had a good read from that, I remember. Next up, we have one I've already mentioned. This is to read a book inspired by a song. Then we have this little circle here of alternating colours. It looks like a warning symbol or some sort of hazardous thing. It's not, it's random colour generator. So that's what that means. Next up is a little cup with some different bits in it, and this represents TBR cup or just random picker in some way, so TBR jar or equivalent to a TBR jar, however you want to do it. The telescope over here means read a STEM book. It can be fiction or non-fiction. It can be sci-fi, but it has to be kind of very sci-fi, I would say, more based in kind of reality or something that is speculative fiction, something like that. STEM is science, technology, engineering, or mathematics. So any of those subjects that are focused on quite heavily in a fiction or a non-fiction book. Then we have the sun, and this is going to be random season generator. Then we have this trophy, and this is going to be an award-winning book. Then we have this broken down book with a heart in it, and this corresponds to a reread of a loved book, a previously loved book. It's a reread. I think I will stretch it so you don't have to absolutely love it. It could also be a reread, I think. This square here is random page generator, and if this comes up, then I'm going to roll a 10-sided dice, and whichever number it lands on is going to be this. It's going to count as like the 100th place of page numbers. Does that make any sense? No. If we roll a 1, we have to read a book that's like 100 and something pages. If we roll a 3, it has to be 300 and something pages. If we roll a 10, it has to be 1,000 and something pages. Yeah, I've upped the ante. I've changed the dice from a 6 to a 10-sided die. Okay, here we have a little camera, and this corresponds to Instagram feed pick. So scroll down through your feed on Instagram, and whichever book comes up first that you have or you can easily find, then you have to read. This is supposed to be a bookmark, and so this means read a book that you've already started and put down. So not a book you're currently reading, then you haven't finished yet. It has to be that you've put it down for some reason, so you've soft DNF'd it, you put it down to the side a while ago and you need to pick it up and finish it. This little guy is free choice, so happy days. This represents to read a book that has been adapted into a film. Next up, we've got the YouTube symbol, so this is read a book from your YouTube feed in the same way that you would for the Instagram feed. This square here is a book and it's random genre generator. This square here is read a book that matches the outfit you're currently wearing when you heard the prompt. I'll have to read a book that matches the clothes that I'm wearing when I film the rolls, so I can't pre-plan it. So A to Z is random letter generator, and this is going to count for the author, so it can be the start of the author's first name, last name, middle name, whatever, as long as it's the start of one of their names. This icon here is a book's on a bookshelf, and this corresponds to Storygraph feed, so again, go through your Storygraph and pick a book from that. This one here is like a sideways graph, and this is poll pick. So I would say just collect about a few books, turn it into a poll, and you can post it on social media, but if you don't have social media, then just ask a bunch of people that you know which book they would prefer you to read out of the list, and then the one with the highest votes is the winner. This W is word of the day. I absolutely love this prompt, and for this I will go onto a dictionary and I will find whatever the word of the day is on that online dictionary, and we all have to read from that word of the day, so we all have to fulfill the same prompt. This F or squiggly F thing is read a fiction book, so that's nice and easy. The dice is play another TBR game, so I will find another TBR game to play and find a prompt from that. This book here with lines coming out of it is like shiny and new. This means read a book that's a new release. So I would say I'm going to count new release as a book that has come out within the last 12 months. So the last year I'm going to count as a new release. This square here is read the first book in a series, because the first book is highlighted over the others. This book here is kind of like, it's a head and shoulders. And this is to read a biography or a memoir or an autobiography. Then we've got, let's move it up to find some more. This icon here is a bunch of different books stacked up, and this is series continuation. This one here is someone giving you a book with a heart on, and this represents read a friend's favourite book. So just pick someone, it can be a family member, a friend, could be someone you don't even know, someone in the comments, and ask them what their favourite book is, and then read that. Right, going all the way down to this one now. Here we've got the scribd symbol, and this is to read a scribd feed or recommended book. I do understand that not everybody has Scribd. I should have changed this. Yeah, maybe just go onto any kind of site that's free, like Goodreads or anything like that, and then find a recommended book to you. So anything that you have that will recommend you a book. Here we've got, it's a bit sideways, so it's not the right way up, but it's the symbol for book, I believe, in simplified Chinese, and this just means to read a translated book. And that's it, I think. If you land on one of these squares here, there's two of them on the board. This means read a book featuring water, and it's just in blue because it is kind of part of the lake, but you don't enter the lake from the water square, but you have to read a book that has water in the title, features water in some way, has a water feature in it somewhere. So now to go over to the green path. This is the new genre path, what I'm very excited about. There are 10 different genres on here. The first one we've got is a heart, and that means read a romance book. Then we have a meteorite falling from the sky, and that means read a dystopian book. Then we have a little spaceship thing, and that means read a sci-fi. Then we have a skull, and that means read a horror book. Then over here we've got a kind of a rosette thing, and I've used this to represent literary fiction. Then we've got a mobile phone with headphones on, and this is my representation of the contemporary world. So this is to read a contemporary. Then we have a knife, and this is to read a thriller book. Then we have I don't know if you can see it right or not, but this is a crown, and this represents historical fiction. Then we've got an upside down magnifying glass. Why I put it upside down, I don't know. But this represents to read a mystery or a crime book. And is that it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, there's one more. Oh, my favourite. This one here is a wand, and this represents to read a fantasy book. And that's everything on this path. It just repeats again and again. Let's go to Lake Doom first. Lake Doom. Okay, so first up we have this one here. Somebody is handing you a book, but they're not giving you their favourite book to read. They're just choosing you a book. So you don't get any say, you just ask them to choose you a book and you got to read whatever they say. This one here is kind of like the scrolling through the feeds, but this is you have to go to the very first YouTube video in your feed, and whatever book is talked about in that video, if you can easily get a hold of it, you've got to read that one. So it's like the very first one that comes up that you can get a hold of, you've got to read. Which I guess is like the YouTube feed, but it's more like even if you don't want to read it, you have to read it. I think with the YouTube feed, there's a bit more leniency, like, oh, I really don't want to read that book. This one, you do have to read it. This is TBR jar, again, TBR jar picker, works in the same way as the other one. This is to pick a bunch of books off your shelves without really thinking too much about their ratings they could have online, and then compare the ratings online either on Goodreads or on Storygraph, whatever you have, and pick the one with the lowest rating. This is to read a least anticipated book, so a book that you have available to you on your TBR, but you're really not excited about it anymore. This one is to read a book over 500 pages. This one here is to read one of the oldest books on your TBR, so one of the books that you physically own or have it available as an ebook or an audiobook, just something that you bought and you have that's been on your list the longest. It doesn't have to be the longest one because I don't know which is my oldest book, but just one of them that you had a really long time. This prompt is to give an author a second chance. So you have to read a book by an author that you've read before, you haven't liked their books, but you want to give them another go, or you don't want to give them another go, but the prompt's making you give them another go, and you have to read another one of their books, basically. Choose an author that you really didn't like the book of, and then read another one of their books, because you never know. And this square here is to have a look at BookTuber's worst books of the year, whatever year we're in. Well, now we're in 2023 currently, so worst books of 2022, and read one of those books. And that is Lake Doom. Let's go to Lake Joy for some joyful prompts. This guy is mood read. Happy days. Read whatever you're in the mood for. This one is to, same as the other one, pick a bunch of books without thinking too much about the ratings, and then read the highest rated book of that stack. The book with the heart is to read a most anticipated book. This one here is to read a book under 300 pages. This icon here represents reading a book that is newest on your TBR. This icon here is to read a book by a favourite author, or an author of a book you've read and you've absolutely loved. And this icon here is to go to a booktuber's favourite books of the last year. So again, we would go to best books of 2022 and choose a book from there. And that is Lake Joy. As you can see, it's basically the opposite prompts from Lake Doom. Okay, so now let's go on to the key. So as you can see, this is the key up here that corresponds to some vista points, some icons, some places to stop and eat, places to stop and drink, places to park up and chill. And I used to only have one of each on the board, but I've doubled it. So now one of each icon is on each trail, because we barely landed on any in the last game, so I thought I'd add some more. If we zoom in to here, we first up have a cup. So whatever books you finished in that gameplay month, you have to make a drink inspired by one of those books. Similarly, I'm going to skip down. This is the same thing, but with food. You have to make some food inspired by one of the books that you've read in that gameplay month. This eye icon here is like information icon. So what we're going to do if we land on this is we have to look up an author in depth, and we ideally have to pass that information on to someone else in some way. So we could either write it down in the comments what we found out, or if we've got a booktube channel, then we can talk about an author in depth in a video or on Instagram or Twitter, just down in the comments, whatever. Just share it, basically. Then we have usually parking, but this is like parking up for a cozy reading night. I have to have a cozy reading night. Again, if you're on social media, it'd be absolutely great to see that, see pictures or see a video of it, stuff like that. This is like a vista view, I think, on regular maps. For this prompt, we have to take an Instagram picture outside just at some point during the month. So you have to go outside have an Instagram bookish picture outside. And this is the tent, and if we land on the tent icon, we have to read outside during the month. And yeah, I think that's everything. I am really looking forward to playing this next round with you guys. I'm excited about the new prompts and about the different way we're going to be playing it and the different outcomes and stuff like that. I hope you guys are excited as well, and I will, see you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye.